Well, hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at flatting and polishing the moulds for the Fiesta RS style spoiler project, and taking a look at some of the new production parts popping out of the moulds. So they've all been polished up to a really high standard, so first of all I'll share the process for that. So first of all, start out with a wet sand of 400, moving on to 800, and then 1200 grit. Give the moulds a thoroughly good wipe down and then hit them up with some compound. Now these will take them all the way up to a high gloss once they're nice and flat, as you can see here. I've used my little twirly 2-inch to get into some of the tight corners, but most of it was done with a DA. Not a very expensive one, but absolutely fine for the job. And as you can see on the large flat parts, it has really come up very well, really reflective, really nice smooth surface, and that'll be copied across onto the production parts when they're laid up in the moulds. See the lower spoiler, a little bit more intricate and a lot more time spent polishing that one up. I'm having to go around the perimeter of it. I did exactly the same, and I'm refining the optical properties of all the surfaces you can see. Here's one of the end plates and the inner mould, and here are the vertical strakes and then the opposite end plate. And what's really nice about all this is it can be stacked up and kitted away with a bit of help from the wind moving parts outside. Thank you UK weather. So it doesn't take up a lot of room once it's all packed up. So that's everything you need in terms of moulds to build a Fiesta RS style spoiler. Looking forward to sharing some first production parts with you now. So the wet layup is done in the traditional way. A gel coat is applied to the mould, making sure that the release agent is there first, otherwise everything sticks together. Now putting in a very thin tissue to help with fibre bridging to give a good connection between the gel coat and the thicker chop strand mat which is used on the inside. The resin is then applied, it's left to cure until it's nice and hard, and then we'll wedge it out. So these are some quick 3D printed wedges. You basically follow around the perimeter of the part, leaving them in place, lifting up and moving along. Et voila, we have our first production part. Very nice and shiny, matching the mould very nicely, no damage done to the mould in the process. Looks like it'll be able to do a good few of these as time goes by. There you can see both sides of the parts. Obviously we'll trim the flange off of those two, and then they'll get bonded together using the original mould to hold things in place, so we have a nice smooth join between the two halves. So very pleased to see there's no damage to those moulds, just little bits of resin left behind from the hand laminating process. Very shiny, very smooth, looking quite professional. I'm pleased about that. So next up I'd like to talk you through kitting up the laminate. So these are the stages that we do to prepare for a very fast and efficient layup. Once you've mixed the resin with a catalyst, you haven't got long to work. It's called the pot life. So you don't have a very long pot life working with polyester resin, maybe 20 minutes max before it's gelled. So what we do here is pre-cut everything, and we stress relieve around the corners to allow the fibres to overlay without kinking too much, so you get a nice smooth surface. Obviously the flange is sacrificial, it's going to be cut off anyway. The main thing is getting a nice part on the inside. So here's that tissue ready cut, ready to go, and some of the chop strand mat. I'll need to replicate that 3 or 4 times to get all the internal layers like you see here, and that is a kit ready to go. Got the tissues, got the chop strand mat, and now I can start laying up the 2 end plates. So the gel coat's been applied, left for 3 to 6 hours to cure, and then you do a wet layup. I've been fairly generous with the resin on this one because I know the corners are going to see a little bit of abuse getting the part in and out of the mould. Obviously we'll trim down the flanges later. Left overnight to cure until they're rock hard, and then they can be popped out of the mould. Et voila! We have a very nice, very shiny end plate ready to show off on the side of the Fiesta. However, the inside didn't quite work out so well. So I'm going to have to go back to the mould and change the part. Engineering time. So I did some sanding and some filling to get everything nice and smooth and levelled out to try and remove any steps and sharp edges which were causing problems with the mould release. Painful wet sanding once again. But then the magic of the epoxy coating resin comes to save the day, so that will make everything smooth as glass, easy to polish up and then take another mould from. I'm going to be reusing the other half of the mould, so I don't need to make those end pieces again, just in second half. So mixing up the resin on the scales, getting ready to brush those onto the surface. So it applies a bit like a gloss paint, to be honest. It's quite straightforward to brush and it self-levels, get a lovely glossy finish, and once it's cured it can be sanded. Back into mould making we go. Might be a little while longer before we get a part onto the Fiesta. I hope you've enjoyed the update today. Don't forget to like and subscribe, but for now, engineer out.